When Indigenous elders gather for a smoking ceremony, you know it's an important gathering. And so it was at Marlay Point on the shores of Lake Wellington when the Gippsland Lakes Ministerial Advisory Committee and Greening Australia joined forces to formally launch the Lake Wellington Wetlands Project. It's a series of programs aimed at making tangible improvements in the way local communities and stakeholders manage and interact with the lakes system. The focus being on wetlands restoration. It's an ambitious project involving the revitalisation of some 200 hectares of critical habitat and fringing wetlands that support local fauna and huge numbers of migratory birds. To that end, it embraces a wide range of partners and stakeholders, including landowners and farmers, Indigenous groups, schools, private contractors, and the wider communities that live around the lakes. And all were represented at the launch.
This project's funded by the Gippsland Lakes Environment Fund. It's a state government initiative to invest in the environmental health of the lakes. And this is one of the first projects that's got off the ground with actual on-ground environmental improvement. The project involves restoring denuded farmland to pristine wetland condition, really. It's about revegetation. It's about restoring the vegetation, which is really important as a habitat for migratory birds, amongst others, including the sharp-tailed sandpiper. The sharp-tailed sandpiper is a migratory bird that comes all the way from the Arctic to feed and breed, and then it goes all the way back again, and it comes right here to where we're standing. So restoring this wetland is really an important part of what the lakes are about.
The individuals and groups involved in this project may strike outsiders as an unlikely alliance, but everyone recognises the value of the wetlands and the importance of projects such as this.
The land's important to me, probably more than anything else. Landholders have realised they have to care for the environment to have a sustainable farm that they can hand on to the next generation. I used to think that other landholders didn't care, but I think it's changing. But a lot of the reason why they haven't done a lot of land care work is because financial stress. It costs a lot to fence off your wetlands, and there's a lot more support from people from Greening Australia, the Lakes Advisory, people now for financial support and technical support. So it's easier for farmers to do something about those problems.
Projects like this one, Love the Lakes, and with Greening Australia is so important because while our workers from Glawak are doing this project, they're telling their stories to the other landholders, and they're becoming aware of the significance of the artefacts and the sites, and there are a lot of burials around the lakes, so which are very deeply important to us. And that's been carried on through generations. So I suppose for me personally, it's through education, through sharing those stories, through listening to other people's stories. And I suppose if people don't understand, you sort of say, well, what about looking back into your history and what does that mean to you? And they sort of start understanding, oh, that is really important. Now I'm sort of starting to understand. So it's sharing the same love for one area.
No one embodies that shared love of land more than Greening Australia's Martin Potts, who's helping to drive this rehabilitation process.
Individually, these wetlands don't exist on their own. The woodland system doesn't exist on its own. The farmer doesn't exist without the land. The school doesn't exist without the farming community. So we need to work within all those elements. With the funding we've received, there's a lot of restoration activities we can undertake that have been planned and dreamed for quite a while. The ability for us to make a difference across a landscape, to work with community, farmers, schools, is all now possible thanks to Love Our Lakes.
The runoff now has been taken more seriously by farmers. They're realising that nutrient waste is becoming a big problem, and we have an example here of where we've noticed that The water was running to waste. It was going into the Latrobe River. This dam wall now has stopped that water going into the Latrobe River and also then into the lakes. And that is a great benefit, not only to the farmers, but also to the whole community in general, and particularly as far as tourism is concerned.
At the moment, the way things are, we have a very strong compacted clay that's either dry or wet. By returning these trees, we'll reopen up that soil, which we've begun here by ploughing, ripping, mounding, to allow these roots to get back in the soil, to bring air and oxygen back into this system. And instead of the water, when it floods, just cascading across the top, recompacting the soil more, moving back out again, it will move through a filtering system and a deeper soil profile, and these trees will help regulate that.
In the past, we have unfortunately damaged the habitat for migratory birds, so some of them are threatened, and particularly the sandpipers, the fairy terns, the Arctic terns, very small numbers. So every square metre of wetland that we restore is another place for those birds to live. I don't know about our generation, but our kids really care about the environment, and it'd be a sad day if we had to tell them a story about a bird that was beautiful and that used to live around the lakes and doesn't anymore.